call the Sunnyvale 4B Economic Development Board meeting to order at 5:35 on August 10th. All members present except member Chase. So we'll open the public forum. 4B Board of Directors invites citizens to address the board on any matter. 4B Economic Development Board meeting to order at 5:35 on August 10th. All members present except member Chase. We'll open the public forum. 4B Board of Directors invite citizens to address the board on any matter. 4B Economic Development Board meeting order at 5:35 on August 10th. All members present except member Chase. Open the public forum. 4B Board of Directors invite citizens to address the board on any matter. 4B Economic Development Board meeting order at 5:35 on August 10th. All members present except member Chase. Open the public forum. 4B Board Directors invite citizens to address the board on any matter. 4B Economic Board meeting order at 5:35 members. Forum 4B Board Directors invite citizens to address the board on any matter. 4B Economic Board order at 5:35 members. Forum 4B Board Directors invite citizens to address the board on any matter. Order. Board Directors invite citizens to the board on any matter. Order. Test 1, 2, 3. Only heard it once. Okay. So we will resume with the public forum. Comments related to public hearings will be heard when the specific hearings start. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise required by law. The board is not permitted to take any action or discuss any item not listed on the agenda. The board may choose to place the item on a future agenda. Anybody that would like to speak in the public forum? Any online? Okay, we'll close the public forum. Move on to public hearing. So we will open public hearing, consider testimony and other information provided. Discuss, consider, and act upon resolution 21-31 declaring Project Barn a project in compliance with sections 501.103 and 505.152 of the Texas Local Government Code. Is there anybody that would like to speak during the public hearing portion of that? Anybody online for comment? Okay. So turn it over to you for.
Okay. You all hear me? So Project Barn is a proposed development for a destination wedding and event venue located roughly on the southwest corner of Pascal Road and US Highway 80 in Sunnyvale. Developer plans to design, build, and manage a 1,200 square foot facility, which would include a reception space, a chapel, commercial kitchen, and floral shop. Additionally, the project will serve as a hosting site for local and regional corporate events and community activities. This project has a proposed capital investment of approximately $2.8 million, anticipated annual taxable sales of over $500,000, and is anticipated to create 26 full-time equivalent positions over the next 5 years. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Do we usually declare these sorts of things as projects? I don't remember doing it.
Yes,
Okay,
since we were
never mind then.
right. So barring any questions, can I get somebody to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 21-31.
Motion made by member Bradford,
Second that.
seconded by member Nair. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Move on to next item. Discuss, consider, and approve the minutes from the July 13, 2021 board meeting. So everybody received that in advance. Had a chance to read it.
If nobody has any questions, I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes from Tuesday, July 13th.
Motion made by member Bradford, seconded by member Anthony. Again, all those in favor? Yep. Passes unanimously. So
Thank you for all your hard work, by the way, on the rest of the trails.
thank you.
We appreciate it.
Next,
Those small taters.
right.
Good.
Discuss, consider, and approve the July 2021 financial reporting and related items. Hand it over to member Bradford.
So staff has prepared our financials for the month. And we have had revenues of $85,679 and expenses of $51,716. Looks like our expenses were our normal payroll, various planning items that we've approved and are making installment payments on, our lawn maintenance agreements and so forth. We had some work done at the parks as well, where we had to cover some parking lot improvements and jobs and park improvements and just various things. So nothing out of the ordinary. And our ending fund balance as of July 31st is $2,838,903. Looks like our sales tax revenue was also up again. That covers the month of May. So it was up over last year, actually the last 3 years, as well as looks like slightly higher than April of this year. So it's trending upward. That's good.
What can we attribute that to? Way up. The last few months especially. Is there a general?
Probably Whataburger. No.
Whataburger is the key figure. Is there one thing that's really kicked it off?
I don't think we can drill down on the specifics, right?
Without doing a public information request, we can't get like by vendor or by pair. But usually, my experience is a lot of construction follows a lot of sales tax. It's hard for us to pin it down though, just because we don't know which construction projects are actually paying their sales tax here versus elsewhere. But that normally is what we see is construction projects, we get sales tax. So that's probably, and then we have QT opened up, and we've got Whataburger opened up, and we have, a few other things that have opened up. And then just generally, I think recovery in the economy. So that's what we're looking at. We are, right now we're budgeting flat for next year, but we may relook at that. So.
I didn't have any additional questions or comments unless staff needed to add anything. Thanks, Phyllis. 10% raise for you. Okay, Paul.
Barring any questions, going to get a motion to approve the July 2021 financial.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 2021 financial reporting.
I second that.
Motion made by member Anthony, seconded by member Nair. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. To the next item. Discuss, consider, and approve a proposal with Knight Security Systems, Inc. for security camera replacement and installation at Town Center Park and Vineyard Park in an amount not to exceed $19,125.67. Burton?
So we've had, we've been talking about adding cameras over at Vineyard for some time, since the lighting went in. Our IT director and JD have been working with a vendor. In the process of all this, we came across some additional cameras over at Town Center Park that were not operational, and there were some other things. And so we've asked Mitch Lee with Knight Security to be here and kind of walk through what this proposal covers and answer any questions. So I'll turn it over to Mitch.
Thank you. Everybody hear me? Pleasure. I've driven by this place hundreds of times. I have a place in East Texas, up in North Texas right now, and seen the community grow, and just really excited about what you guys have coming, because I've seen it up north with Salina Prosper and some of those places. So congratulations on that. Just a little bit about Knight. We've been around for about 40 years, so well established. We do a lot of small to mid-size governmental entities, plus the large ones as well. So we're well versed in that. Did I lose you guys? We're bringing you guys some of the best technology out there. Kind of going on and off with the camera system on. But what we're looking to do over at Vineyard Park, we're looking to put in 4 cameras. So there'll be 2 of them. Okay, sorry. There'll be 2 of them facing the parking lot, and they're the quality. Hear me now? Okay, sorry about that. I know a technology guy talking, it's not using the technology very well. So no, we're bringing you some of the best technology on the market there. So we're looking at putting 4 cameras over at Vineyard Park. So we'll have 2 of them facing the parking lot. We'll have 2 of them facing the soccer fields. The cameras have starlight capabilities, which means you can see as good in the dark as you can in the day. Very good. They also have analytics built in that there's no additional charges for that. And the analytics can be where you can do a perimeter on the park. So if you have after hours and the people are not supposed to be there, these cameras can tell the difference between a dog and a person. They can determine flow of traffic. They can read plates. So you have a lot of things as the city grows and the parks become utilized more. These are all built in, so there's no additional charges for that. But the other part, you currently have 7 cameras. You have 2 facing the parking lot, 2, actually 3 facing the pavilion, and then you have 2 on the other side of the restrooms. So we're looking at replacing those as well. I think we'll have one that's actually going to go more towards the tennis court in the back. I do know a few of the cameras or the Chinese models that what the federal government had passed, that those should not be used because of potential hacking. So I think there are a couple of cameras over there that you probably need to get rid of rather soon. As we know, some of the cities and school districts have been hacked, which is unfortunate. But the quality is as good a camera as you're going to get. Both of the companies we're dealing with, the camera's going to be Bosch cameras, so very old company that's been around that produces some fantastic products. You probably see a washing machine or see tools at Home Depot. And then the video management system is Genetech. And that company is actually #1 in the world right now as far as their software goes. They have a very tightly integrated access control. So if at some point in time the parks need access control, whether it's the doors, to the storage or the restrooms or, whatnot because of COVID or just because the amount of people that come to the city, you'll be able to do that through controls. And as I was telling a gentleman earlier, that they also have a module in there that as you guys grow, and this is the Economic Development Board, that you're going to get a lot more of the private partnerships, Wendy's, McDonald's, some retail centers. You can utilize the system to do the monitoring there as well. It'll work together, so the police department can monitor as well. So it's a system that's really going to grow with the city, and both the companies we're dealing with financially are some of the best in the world for what you're dealing with here. So you're going first class. It's a first class city. You're going with a first class system, and I think you'll be very happy. Questions?
What is the usual lifespan on these types of cameras?
The usual lifespan, some of the ones you kind of get off the shelf and the cheaper ones are probably anywhere from 2 to 3 to 5 years. These models are outside cameras, so unfortunately, they can last you 7 to 10 years. The Bosch cameras, you'll see, anytime you're on the highways, you'll see them on the roadways. They do all the tech stock cameras. So they're built to last. So, I say, unfortunately, you always want to try to keep up with technology and replace things. But we've seen Bosch cameras out there that are 17 years old. So you're going to have them for a long time.
Okay. I feel like we've replaced these once since I've been on the board, or at least some of them in Town Center Park, but I can't remember when it
Yeah, I
was.
think it was probably like 3 or 4 years ago. We either replaced a couple, like I think the original ones were put up maybe 7 or 8 years ago, like when I first started on the board, and then we either replaced or added a few years ago.
I think we did both.
Maybe so. So sorry, go ahead.
You have electric going to the 2 poles over at Vineyard, but we're going to need an electrician to go to.
Does this include a DVR system as well?
They're coming back to, I think what Joseph's going to do is going to do a virtual server. And so they're going to be coming back to the server. So there's not really need for DVR system.
So there should be some networking.
These switches,
Okay.
they're PoE, so they'll go to a switch, and from the switch they'll come back through your network over to City Hall. So there's not extra hardware you got to deal with. Now, unfortunately, the switches for Vineyard are going to be in a NEMA box. So, you know, you're talking about how long things are going to last. That's going to be rough. So those are probably 3 to 5 years, just because the heat in the NEMA box. So but the cameras themselves, they'll last. They're really built for outdoors.
Wondering whether we could place some of that in the library building.
Well, what's going to happen is you have the 2 poles, and we're going to use the brand's called Cambium. It's a point-to-point wireless. So instead of having to trench or drag cable, we're going to shoot it back over to the library. I say fire station, but so it'll go there back into your network.
One more question on that is like you talked about like adding more to that system, right? So the central system that you're going to put, like what is the number of maximum units you can plug into that?
It's infinite. You can do the whole city if you want to do that. So it's
So
just how big your server is going to be, really. Of course, you'll have X amount of cameras on a switch, and then from those switches will go back to the central location, and then the server is, it's just depending on how big your server is.
If you add more cameras, we may end up buying more switches.
No, not really. You'll buy camera licenses, basically. So the switches really depend on locations. So, like you have everything comes into a central location over here. So you basically have one switch. And the switch has to take X amount of cameras in. So really it depends.
This may be a question for you. If we're looking at this for parks, is the town looking at the same system for other stuff?
Yeah, so Joseph has that as a project on the project matrix from the council. It's part of their strategic plan to look at technology for other areas of town.
Okay. Yeah, because one
Can you guys hear me right now?
or one group going one way and us going a different way, you'd rather work together.
Yeah, so that's Joseph on the line. Joseph, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I can answer any questions related to that. Briefly, Mitch talked about the door access control, which the town's looking at investing in other areas. And so this was a pig that, it's cutting edge, but it's not bleeding edge. But it also integrates with a lot of other great things like access control. And another great thing about the system is if the town wants to utilize the system or tack on additional cameras, or parks wants to add additional cameras, it's just a matter of paying for a license and another camera. The system is already there and it's expandable. In terms of storage, we do have storage available. There's no premium storage or anything like that we need. We have a lot of storage from a previous backup system that we can utilize. And as the storage for the cameras, for the video, as the video fills up the storage, it can override. So depending on how many days we want to view the footage, is how much storage we need. But after reviewing the storage, we can go back quite a while. We have plenty of storage at the moment.
Neat. So over time, if we decide to add to trails, or if the police department, traffic control decides they want them, this is who you want to be working with.
Right. Yeah, you can add, as long as we can get network connectivity to the trails, which is another question on how you want to do that. We can add cameras. So in the Vineyard Park, we don't have internet connectivity there. So that's why we're branching network connectivity from the fire department / library and using microwave to the existing light poles to get the cameras that far out. So in a rails to trail situation, depends on the location. There's also other technology you can use, such as cellular and things of that nature.
I have one more question. Since you mentioned the licenses.
I can't hear your microphone. Can you turn that one up?
Okay. Just the question is like, since we mentioned the number of licenses we have to add up, and so could you elaborate on that a little bit? Because is there a cloud storage? It seems like no cloud storage.
No,
Could you
no,
elaborate
it's all going to be server based.
Okay.
So, the storage size is really dependent on Joseph and what he needs to grow with the system, which honestly, I like a server base because trying to get video up in the cloud and the expense is just, unfortunately, it's not worth it. So
And what is this licensing that you mentioned?
so every camera has a license to it. So you pay a camera connection license. And then you can also get, call it warranty. You get your warranty, and that's going to give you the upgrades to your software. It's going to give you support, things like that. So Genetech license it for camera, and so that's kind of how you do that. So they have a main license, so you'll get this what they call a security center license, and then you get a module license. And the security center is they kind of get that way. But for each module, like the video management, and access control, and the other modules you get, you pay a one-time fee for those.
Yeah, and that's an important point, Mitch. It's a one-time cost, and it's not a recurring cost, and also it's not a closed system. So if for whatever reason our partnership didn't work out with Mitch, which is unlikely, there's a number of vendors that we can use, or we can just continue to manage it ourselves, or we can use the same cameras with any other video management system. It's not a proprietary system like many other systems out there.
Yeah, the open architecture is, if you're a city and you're growing of any size, you definitely want open architecture. That way, if you have integrators that may come and go, or if Joseph decides to leave for a better opportunity, then the city can continue down. I love Joseph. We both got East Texas roots, so and I actually know I know his dad. I met his dad, but having that, the city can keep going right along, and so there's no bumps in the road where 2 or 3 years, like, oh, I bought a system, it's proprietary, I can't find anybody to work on it, I got to pay to have something. It's kind of a pain in the butt. We see that, we deal with that every day, and at the end of the day, we pretty much have to tell most of our prospects or even our customers, hey, we can't really help you for that, because you got to find somebody who that's what they do. So.
Thank you.
So do we not need to declare this as a project in order to approve this?
We don't, because we have in the budget, I believe there's been a standing line item that had cameras in there.
Okay.
And the pricing is the state of Texas DIR, so it's pretty much a set pricing that we negotiate with the state. So just kind of FYI. Well, unfortunately, it's a construction type of document, so we deal with that a lot.
Is that why all the individual pricing is redacted? Because it's like a negotiated overall rate?
It is. It's our negotiated with the state of Texas,
Okay.
so we try not to have that.
Yeah, I was
just
curious.
unfortunately, like most everybody else. But those rates are set by the state. So when we do business with a government entity, then the pricing. Sorry.
If we were to approve this, when would the installation be taking place? Do you project?
Well, I would like to say tomorrow, but there's good news and bad news. The good news that we can start on it rather quickly. The bad news is that we're hopeful that most of the items we can get in a relatively short time frame. We have had some issues with cameras, even enclosures that have unfortunately a little bit longer lead time due to chips, or if this enclosure is aluminum, the aluminum production is slow, or having issues. So we've had that with quite a few customers. I don't really see it because of the items we have in the proposal, but again, we won't know till we actually place the order on what the lead times are. So we're kind of bound to our vendors to when they can deliver. But I'm hopeful. Don't hold me to this. I'm hopeful. Probably 3 to 4 to 5 weeks, maybe.
And I'm assuming that, I mean, this is probably a dumb question, but who all would have access to these videos? I'm just curious. I'm assuming the police department would have some input on this type of system. Would they feel comfortable with this type of system, or is everything just going through Joseph's at this point?
I can speak to that. It's a very granular system, and so it's access based, it's role based. It integrates with Active Directory, so we can pick and choose. We can choose if certain people we only want them to have live footage, and we only want certain people to have export rights to the footage. Some people can view historical records, some people can't. By default, IT typically has access to the system to maintain and support things. In terms of who wants access from the parks, I'm pretty indifferent about that as far as live footage goes, and I can work with Burton to see exactly who needs footage to that. There wouldn't be anyone, with access to the park's camera unless there was a request and it made sense. Burton, do you have any feedback on that?
I would imagine it would, obviously Joseph, JD, PD may, police department may want access to that. And, if Susan or Charles wanted access to it.
Right. So if the police department wants to designate a person, we could absolutely give them access.
One of the neat features unfortunately, there are a lot of neat features in the system, but like say the camera's installed and, hey, we need it over here a little bit because we're not getting a better view. Joseph with his phone can log into that camera and he can move the view around. So he doesn't have to call maintenance, he can get on a ladder, he can do it all himself. So once they're really installed, you can just say, I don't like that view, or we're having issues on this side of the pavilion and we're over here on this side, then you can change the view in a matter of minutes and you're done. So just, neat things, but for, unfortunately, a smaller organization, they really mean a lot that you don't have to deal with that.
Yes, and then the last question for me is, I guess the way it's set up, you'll be able to see who's coming in and out of both parks.
Correct.
And since you said it does plate scanning or whatever, quality enough that you'll be able to pick up plates or whatever. Neat.
Yeah, there's a free software. The police have to get it, but they can get a license per location, and so it's not going against any databases, but it'll sit there and track things. So if there are issues, they can go back and find out, if there was a abduction or somebody tried to break in a car, they can kind of go back on that footage and see the plates and determine that. And say it doesn't match up against anything unless they wanted to. But it's only for the police.
Do we have to, or will we place signs that say it's electronically monitored at the parks?
It's up to the city.
You don't have to.
But it's always a good deterrent, though.
Yes.
I like it.
Any other questions or discussion? JD gave the thumbs up. So. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal with Night Security Systems, Inc. for security camera replacement installation at Town Center and Vineyard Parks in the amount not to exceed $19,125.67.
Second.
Motion made by member Shatter, seconded by member Bradford. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to the next item, discuss, consider, and approve resolution 21-32, a resolution approving a special warranty deed and authorizing the conveyance of certain real property to the town of Sunnyvale.
So this item, this relates to the recent acquisition of the SES Rail Spur. So with 4B, the Development Corporation purchasing the 73 acres known as Lake Ray Hubbard SES Rail Spur from Barnes Bridge Road to Long Creek Road within Sunnyvale. This special warranty deed will convey the property to the town to be used for future parks and trail purposes. So this is just the paper part of the transaction, and if you all approve this, it'll move on to town council. Be happy to answer any questions.
Can we get the mineral rights?
Any questions? Or
I'm gonna have to have my attorney review this.
I don't remember the $10 on the last the last time we did it.
Price has gone up.
A lot of
Did
pages.
one.
Inflation.
So wouldn't it say accept if the minerals were excluded? Unless they didn't have them to begin with?
President Weiss, do you remember? I'm trying to remember because I've done 3 closings in 1 month. I know on the SISD property, they were not included. I'm struggling to remember on this property.
This,
Does anybody remember?
I don't believe they were
Yeah, I
going way back.
typically they're not included, but I'm not remembering at the top of my head.
I don't
but
believe they
wanna
were,
say
and then we
no.
couldn't sell it to another utility company at some point if we felt like selling it. But other than that, we can use it for running AT&T, Spectrum, whatever, you know, I mean, you can lease it out for underground use and all sorts of things like that. But
Whoever retained the minerals is gonna have the right to explore those minerals down the road, potentially.
correct. I will make a motion to approve resolution 21-32.
Second.
Motion made by member Wise, seconded by member Cash. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is discuss and consider updates for ongoing projects. So, very last page.
Thanks to the guys for mowing, especially at Sandhill, Sandhill North, whatever it is. We walkers appreciate it.
I had a number of questions for Burton before this month, but a lot of the stuff I was asking him about for this particular page needed to be held off until we have our joint meeting next month. So good news is it looks like Collins is progressing pretty well. So. Amazing how much dirt's on top of a new road.
Hadn't slowed down the people cutting through Sunnyvale, I think.
Well, Waze contributes to that. You know, I hear more people say, I've gone by your house. I didn't know I was going. And this is the way Waze made me go. And they were like, that's a project of yours, you know. You're like, thank you, Waze.
And the roundabout's a little tricky too still, so people are still figuring out who's supposed to yield, who's not. It's kind of fun.
little bit when they're coming in that direction, because I'm not sure if they'll know. I won't stop, and I'll be like, are they gonna come in? Are they gonna let me go? Because I'm always going that way down through.
I have a question, and I meant to send this before the meeting, and therefore you don't have to answer me on the spot. Who is responsible for, and I don't mean to call out anybody who's in this room or otherwise. I'm just asking, who's responsible for mowing and upkeeping what we previously knew as the Provident property where Chick-fil-A is being built and where Panda Express is? So the undeveloped areas.
If it's behind the development, I like to call it the grassy knoll. If
No,
it's the grassy
it's
knoll, it's us. If it's just their development, and it's whoever owns the property. So. it
So
really
like to
depends
the
upon
right
which-
of Panda Express, where there's no property there, where there's no pad site yet. But the weeds are about 3 feet tall going along her weed. And it looks like,
It would either depend on how far you're talking about, either Burger King or the property that is proposed for a retail center. We can get with the property owners and ask them.
yeah, because it's just not a good look as you're going in and out of the property.
And the Sunnyvale Center sign's still broken.
Or is that vandalism? Some black duct tape.
of town, I mean, it is a constant every day. Go here, go here, go here, go here, just trying to keep up at this time of the year. But I do think sometimes we get a little numb to it. So feel free to shoot us a text and we'll get somebody over there, whether it's an enforcement issue. And remember, enforcement issues can take a period of time because we have to notify them, then we have to give notice, and then they have 10 days to resolve. And there's this process that's super frustrating, but it is what's in law. So, but yeah, never hesitate. You all, I think, have my cell phone number. You can text me or Charles or Burton or JD, and we'll get the crews over to address it, whether, either way.
Yeah, normally I'm not one of those people that points out that kind of stuff because usually as soon as I do, it was on somebody's plate to get done. And so I don't want to make
Maybe
a big
not
deal
that.
out of something. But it has kind of gotten to the point where I was like, if I'm noticing it and feel like mentioning it, then it's,
I think once a week I text JD and ask him to have the crews clean up it's really Texas area across from Whataburger. I drive that every day, and it's just, I don't know what people do. They just drive by and throw their stuff out the window. Yeah. I mean, literally once a week, I'm like, JD, can you have them do it again? Just because, it doesn't look good. It's the entrance to our community. So.
it's just a speck.
I know, I'm mowing, you're like, ugh.
The police chief just pointed those out to our public works department this afternoon. So I think you'll see those getting addressed. But same thing, don't hesitate. I mean, always feel free to text us and we'll get somebody out. People assume we see everything, but we don't. So we're not insulted if you point things out to us.
I'm so glad to hear that.
So it was exciting to see the walls go up over there off of 80 on the Planters Road distribution centers. We have any more information yet from kind of when they plan to open and what might be going in there yet?
No new information.
I did meet yesterday I met with the real estate group that's going to be looking for tenants. So we're working with them, kind of our targeted industries, and they're going to try to incorporate some of that into their marketing materials. But the developer always said that, you know, once it started going vertical, then the interest would start. And, I've got a couple of webinars this week, some project leads that if they're, you know, if they have potential to be a fit, then I'm going to feed those to the broker and have them reach out to them and see. Obviously, it comes down to rents and agreement and what they can do, but it's going to be a collaborative effort. That's kind of the way we left it yesterday.
One more question on that. You know, there is some new construction real estate development happening in Collins and Tony's. There's a pond built in there. Okay. I've seen like a bunch of comments, like people worried about having that pond open there, like, you know, on Tony's, people may run into, you know, and things like that. Yeah, from the driving.
Actually, we've been working with the developer to put a barrier up, and we've already come to agreement, and they've selected it, and it's just a matter of right now kind of working through getting it installed. Yeah, from a engineering standpoint, they didn't really feel like it was needed, but I got enough of those comments as well. So that is in process. Just, you know, something so if somebody were to miss the turn.
I mean, there are a bunch of comments out there. Some youngsters are going to, you know, drive up there and all this kind of thing.
And just so you know too on that, the appearance of it will dramatically improve. It's planned to have, I think it's a gazebo. Charles, chime in if you want, a gazebo, grass. I mean, it's supposed to be an amenity, just still in the early development stages, but we've mentioned it several times and are very reassuring that it will transition into being an amenity.
You know, is it like going to be completed in a couple of years? I mean, any timeline
Charles,
or
do you
anything on that?
So they've talked about at least sodding it and having some grass probably in the fall once the temperatures cool off just a little bit. Other amenities would be installed as the homes in that phase are constructed over the next probably year or two.
A lot of work happening right now. They're putting all the pipelines.
Well, and the sidewalks that go around it are on the outside of the neighborhood too. So I mean, those become public amenities, not just internal to the neighborhood. Then doesn't sound like there was, but any update on the sport, the whole town east? And
We are working with the architect and engineer for the athletic club facility, just some of the technical, typical stuff that we do pre-development. So they're making progress, but it's kind of behind the scenes stuff right now.
For the stables, I know that the costs went up quite a bit at the beginning or towards the beginning of the year. I was just wondering, you know, I've heard that construction costs have come down a bit. Are they re-looking at the price of the original project?
I thought you said staples. I'm like, what is she talking about? So yeah, stable. So horse barn.
where are we
So
getting
we have been grappling with that. The fire station is actually at about we passed the 65% design phase and we're quickly approaching the 90%, hoping to break ground in December is our big goal, which corresponds with the 50th anniversary of the fire department. So it's kind of going to be a big deal. But the horse barn we've struggled with just from a budget standpoint. You know, we have $500,000 and just nothing seems to fit into that budget. So we got the last bid I got from them, or quote, was $603,000. Council asked me to go back and just say, what can we get for 500,000? What does that look like? So we had a meeting last Friday. Charles, myself, Doug Key, Doug Kendrick, Lyle, just everybody who needed to be in the room to talk about, okay, what codes apply in this situation? What can we do? So we came to some conclusions. Today I got an email from Ryan who is with Byrne, who is our construction manager at risk, saying that he had a few other things that happened this week, but that by early next week, he should have a revised quote to me. We're really hoping that it's under 500,000 so that we can at least say, here's what you would get for 500,000 compared to 600 or $700,000. So that's where we're at. So we're hoping probably by next week, we at least have a sense of where we can go.
Yeah, because we
moving
set
forward.
that $500,000 budget in a very different scenario. So I'm hoping we can figure something out. It just seems like it's dragging on forever. It just gets more and more expensive.
We totally understand it. Just we've never gotten the quote that was 500,000. Everything from the original person who did an estimate who said 500, that's how we picked the budget. But ever since then, when the reality came to people who would actually be involved with constructing it, the lowest quote we've had is 600. And so we haven't had anything that actually met the budget. So we've been kind of, I guess we'd call it value engineering, trying to figure out what does fit into this budget. So I'm hoping that next week we have an answer so then we can at least make choices. Are we willing to settle for what the $500,000 will get us, or are we willing to put more money in? So
Is that on our agenda for the joint meeting with town council?
I don't think we've posted the agenda yet. I think we're still developing it, but the timing might end up being good for that discussion. I don't want to hold it up if we're not, if we are ready to move forward before then, but if not, I think it's a great discussion to have.
And one other thing from me, just a little thing, for the events committee, when we get closer to the October fireworks, every time there's fireworks on next door, there's a bunch of people that have, emotional reactions to the loud sounds, or they have kids in bed. And so just want to make sure we get it out there as many ways as we can, try to reach as many people. I guess some of these people didn't have school contacts, so they didn't know about the ones on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah,
Back to
the
school.
school had a back to school celebration and they had fireworks as part of it. So
Yeah.
Well, no, a couple of nights earlier, there was something, and I didn't know if it was the county disposing of stuff or something, but I mean, east of Sunnyvale, it went on for hours. And well, they were racing, and I can see them from my house, and you couldn't see them. So, they were coming from the east instead of the south, where Devil's Bowl was, or at least that's the way it sounded.
I know what the fireworks for the school were, but I didn't know about.
But they just kept going on and on and on and on, and they'd stop, and then 20 minutes later, it was. But I mean, didn't sound like somebody doing it in their yard. It sounded like they were like disposing of stuff or something. And you're like, man.
And it might not be as big a deal in October because it'll get dark earlier, but these were late, so people had babies in bed, and
I know I saw the next.
it's loud.
performance as well.
So,
It's pretty good.
Any other questions or comments on this agenda? Move on to the next one, discuss public art and public benches along trails and parks and on public land. So this is one I brought up with Burton. It was kind of funny because where I got thinking about public art is when you talked about the horses as public art. But thought as we improve the trail system and the park system, and then thinking about Collins and the traffic circle and what are you going to do there, it just seemed logical to start really thinking about public art, either from the municipal side, whether we try to pay for things, or if we open it up to like park benches. A lot of places allow for sponsorships and stuff, so somebody can do in memory of somebody, or sponsoring and paying for the bench if we were to come up with 3 or 4 styles or whatever it happened to be that people could then buy, and then the town could have them installed, or whatever the process happened to be. So I just wanted to bring that up and get ideas and things moving forward. Didn't think we'd come to any conclusion tonight, but public art that I was looking at, we were out in Santa Fe, and I guess every time you go to Santa Fe, you look at a lot of public art, but and thinking about the traffic circle, it's kind of strange there because you want something that's neat, but you also don't want people distracted and then plowing into something. So what's that? Right. And we had talked about potentially, I guess this is on the group meeting, the entry signs, entry monuments, whatever they are, and potentially using windmills. So that can fall under public art as well. You can use your traditional farm style, ranch style windmills, or get into wind art. And I've started researching that, and there's stuff out of various cities here in the Metroplex and the airport. Raytheon has them, they look really neat. Right, the kinetic art type stuff. So
Same thing on summer travels. We were in Vail for a bit, and they have bronze sculptures just throughout the town, a moose or a bear and just various things. It just adds to the ambiance. So as we start finishing up some of these projects, it's something to think about.
and on the right, yeah, those bronze ones that you're in Vail, those things are like $100,000 a piece. I don't know.
But like the benches, I think you would get a lot of folks to want to sponsor a bench in memory of someone. I think that's a good idea.
And
Longtime residents of Sunnyvale.
one thing I was looking at were the big stone benches. They're actually pretty inexpensive, and you can have them engraved. And so if you buy the giant stones, they're real cheap. But if you cut them to certain sizes, the more cuts you add, the more expensive they get. But they're still pretty reasonable. And so over time, if we were to do that, you could order them, and then you have one delivery. Your delivery is half the cost of getting like 20 blocks, well, not 20, but and then it's just a giant rock, and then you can have the engraving on it, or you can do a plaque in front of it, depending on what people prefer. But kind of goes with the theme of what town hall looks like, just bigger rock, but flat, big bench. And I could provide pictures and stuff like that, or you could also offer, if people wanted a more traditional park bench, as an option as well. Yeah, and that's where Friends of Sunnyvale Trails could come in as well, so that's a topic for them. But it would have to be approved by the town in order to place. If somebody else another organization was paying for it and doing it, the town would have to approve the placement. Once it's installed, it's a town amenity. Okay. So next is discuss future agenda items. Personally, I think a lot of the future stuff is going to come up in the joint meeting until we have that, we'll move on from there. So next is moving into executive session. So we will recess into executive session pursuant to Chapter 551, Subchapter D of the Texas Government Code. So can I get a motion to recess? Motion made by Member Bradford, seconded by Member Anthony. Those in favor. So we'll recess at 6:35 into executive session. will reconvene out of executive session at 7 PM.
Oh, sorry. I make a motion to approve resolution number 21-33 with amendments as discussed.
I'll
Motion made,
second.
motion made by member Anthony, seconded by member Bradford. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. That is the end of business today. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Um,
Motion made by member Shatter,
Second.
seconded by member Nair. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. We adjourn at 7:01 PM.
All right, Mr. Cash, would